But hello, everyone. This is Associate University featuring Timothy McGimpsey today, and we will be talking about the topic of composition. And so I just wanted to read Timothy's bio so y'all can get an understanding, kind of an idea of his experience and why he's qualified to do the class today. So I'm going to read it. It says, Timothy McGimpsey was born in Kokomo, Indiana. Timothy only enjoyed music from an audience perspective until he developed an interest in producing beats with Fruity Loops in 2005. Timothy's older brother, Andrew, noticed his musical ability and suggested to their mom that she should get Timothy a drum set. In December of 2005, Timothy and his family moved to Austin, Texas, where he spent most of his time developing his newfound musical abilities. Since then, Timothy has taught himself how to play drums, piano, bass, guitar, and sing. Timothy grew on each instrument through playing in church and eventually other live settings. In the process of refining his craft, he has produced and written thousands of songs as an independent artist, but mostly for clients. He has done work with clients around the world, from up-and-coming artists in the United States to developing music for websites and mobile apps for My Equilibria, a company in Milano, Italy. Milano, Italy. Timothy is currently the music director at Influence Church and enjoys working as a private music teacher, artist, musician, and producer based out of St. Louis, Missouri. And I'm sure he'll take you all about his process, what he did last year, and then we're going to get into it. But welcome, everyone, Timothy McGimpsey.
Yay! I needed one of those DJ buttons that claps.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was awesome, Jamarco. That was a really good introduction. That's like really nice. So yeah, I'll kind of start from the top again. Last year, I went through an artist challenge by challenging myself to make one song from scratch every month, meaning the beat, all the instruments, all the vocals, vocal composition, all the lyrics, and then also directing and making the concept for a music video for every single one, every single month. Today, we're only going to be talking about maybe 3 to 5 of them, unless if there's specific songs that you guys want to hear about. Or if you guys know a song I produced for somebody local or a national artist that you want me to break down. If I have the stems, I'll pull them up. So this first song is Your Man. It's in the key E flat. This is kind of what it sounds like. Also, for the people that just tuned in, if you scroll through the different screens of people that's on here, you'll see that I have 2 different screens. I have the one I'm talking to you on right here. Then I also have one I'm pointing to right here over my shoulder, which shows you my keyboard and my hand. So if you're into like knowing what I'm playing or what it looks like, or if you want to see my computer screen for when we get to the beat part. So anyways, the song kind of goes like this. I'll let it play for a second and then we'll break it down. All right, so we'll stop right there. So we have an intro. Earlier on, before some of y'all jumped in here, I was talking about why I started the song off the way I did. The first thing that the listener hears is this thing that we call in production a rise. Do y'all hear that? The little shh, like a whooshing sound. That's called a rise, and I use it quite a bit in production because I feel like it helps transition the listener from nothing or from the last song to whatever's playing next. And then the first thing you hear is a Fender Rhodes. I'm playing it on a piano sound right now on my keyboard, but on the record I played it on a Fender Rhodes. And earlier I was telling the people that were already in here that this song only has 4 chords in it. So this is the first chord, that's the second chord, third chord, and and fourth chord. So the whole song is the exact same chord structure wise. The only thing that changes a little bit is the bass line. Now for Matthew Jameson, that's in here, he plays bass. So on this song, this is kind of cool for him because even though there's 4 different chords, when the bass drops in, it plays an alternate pattern. So for example, instead of following this pattern, like descending and going down by half steps, the bass, when this comes in and plays, it plays this line. I think it plays something close to that. Let me actually hear it. I haven't played this in a while. Okay, so it descends and it plays the same thing as the piano at first. But when it goes to the verse, it changes right here. Goes up, and then it starts moving a little differently. So just by changing the bass line, I already changed the dynamic of it. So the hook or the chorus, which is the girl, I wanna be your man, be your man, I love you like nobody can. The chorus right there becomes different because the bass line changes. So the drums also do the same type of thing. There's really only 3 different patterns of drums throughout the whole song. And I try to keep it simple because there's a lot of complexity in the vocal arrangement. So let's hear, I'm going to play the piano sound, the Rhodes, and the bass together so you guys can kind of hear the separation. And then here's the verse right here. You guys kind of hear the difference? So the piano's still doing the same thing it was doing, but the bass is getting a little fancier, having a mind of its own now. And now the bass joins back in, going down chromatically. Chromatically just means that there's half steps. And then everybody stops on this one chord, the third chord, which it's called an F sharp 7th, but everybody stops on this chord because there's a vocal buildup, which I'm going to actually solo the vocal so you can hear. And I know we're not in a Q&A part per se, but if you guys ever have a question, you can always jump in, hit unmute and just say, hey, what do you mean by this? Because I don't want to assume you guys know certain things when I say phrases. So let's see. Be your man, love you like nobody can, only I can. I wanna help you understand, when I hold your hand, how much I wanna be your man. I wanna be your man.
So, I got a question.
Yes.
What effects are on those vocals?
Oh, you know what? So I have, what I have pulled up right now is my Ableton session, which is the bus stems, meaning like it's all mixed together on one track, but I can kind of go back and remember what I did. So, yeah, let's play it again so I can kind of hear some of it. Be a man, be a man, love you like nobody can. Most of the effects that I put on my chain, and this is more of a technical term for people that produce, my chain on my like vocal presets, I like to have.
What's
that?
What's a chain?
Sure. So a chain is basically, if you think of audio the same way you can think of plumbing, you have the master valve, meaning the main thing that is bringing the signal into that channel, which is one pipe, if you think of it like a pipe. So with vocals, I have on that, what you're hearing with the girl, I wanna be your man, I think that's like 7 vocals total, maybe 6. It's a 3-piece harmony, but I stacked 2 vocals on each part. so that the audio engineer could pan them and make them sound really luscious. So the vocal chain is the effects that I put on each channel, which I usually put compression. And compression kind of, if you think about peaks and valleys in audio, like even when I'm talking to you right now, there's some words that I say softer than others. So even on this mic, I have compression to where it evens it out to where you should be able to hear everything pretty evenly. So compression, I don't want to say it squashes it, it just evens out and makes it fuller. So then I have compression. After that, I have EQ, which takes out any frequencies that don't match well, or if I'm singing a low note and there's a lot of bass in my voice and maybe too much, it'll take off some of that. Then next, the main thing that you're hearing is reverb and delay. So when you hear, "Girl, I wanna be your man," you kind of hear it still goes on, be your man, your man. So that's delay. So delay, echo, people call that the same thing, delay and echo. They're synonymous. As far as, did that kind of answer your question on what's on the voice?
Oh yeah, is reverb before delay or is delay before reverb?
So usually it depends on what you're trying to do. I would usually say run them on two different buses or auxiliaries, which that's more of like a mixing question.
Okay.
And actually I could screen share. We can get into that type of stuff too. I can screen share and we can go through a channel. But yeah, you want to put your delay and your reverb on auxiliaries. And an auxiliary is basically a knob that allows you to mix in a portion of that effect. So you don't have to fully dedicate like that effect to that channel. You can put, so for example, I had 6 vocals stacked all together. When it was mixed, all those vocals fed into an auxiliary, which made it go to a reverb channel that controls it. That way there's not multiple reverbs all over the place. That way it's just feeding into one reverb. Does that kind of answer that question?
No, that's good. That's good. Thank you.
Cool.
So the chain is all of those components together.
What's that?
So the chain is basically all of those components together.
Yeah. Would you want to see what a chain looks like?
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to put this main screen on a screen share. So this is this program that you're about to see on the screen. Everybody see this? All right. So this is Logic, and I'm just going to make a audio channel. All right. So when I bring up this mixing window, this right here is an audio chain. The thing I'm moving is called a fader. So on an audio chain, the first thing you have at the top is, well, you have settings. You can pick pre-made settings if I have some pre-made ones. This box right here is an EQ. So they just put EQ in first before anything else. Or actually, I'm sorry, they put gain reduction, which is also your compression. So in Logic, they suggest compression, EQ. Actually, that's the same way I suggested it a second ago. So you would have compression, then you have EQ, and I should probably mention this too for y'all that aren't really familiar with like the audio world. The human hearing range is 20 hertz, which is down here, which is like 808s and underneath 808s and sub bass frequencies. Like when you're outside a club and you hear doom, 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 that's the range that you hear. Wave forms at that low frequency are very wide and they vibrate like a lot wider than higher frequencies. So that's why they're able to go through walls. And then 100 hertz is kind of where like kick drums sit. 200 hertz, a lot of stuff sits there, but the human voice starts sitting around here. Human voice is here and a little bit up here. So the whole human spectrum of what you can hear is from 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz. So when you're mixing, you're trying to fit everything that you want heard inside of what humans can actually hear, because anything outside doesn't really matter that much. So back to a vocal chain. This is the chain that I'm making right now. So on that vocal chain, there's probably some other stuff too, but the main things you have is compression, EQ, and then, auto-tune if you want tuning, which there was some auto-tune on there for sure to make it crisper. And then what I was talking about earlier, Matt, with auxiliaries, I can open on auxiliary, which I just did over here, bus 6. and I can put my reverb directly on there. So now when I want to have reverb affecting this channel, I can just turn this up to my desired amount. Same thing for any other effect. Like if you have distortion you want to blend in, or if you have delay. And there's a whole bunch of other stuff you can put on here, but this is the main thing you need: compression and a channel EQ. So with the EQ, when I'm tracking vocals, and really anytime anyone's tracking vocals, because the human hearing range can't even hear vocals or human vocals under 100 hertz, it's always advised just to take this high shelf pass filter and just roll off anything underneath 100, because your voice can't even produce that low. So even if you have a baritone voice, you can't really go much lower than that. So it's better just to cut that off so that it's not noisy. And this is more technical into like the mixing world, but I'm hoping that I kind of hope that helped answer y'all.
That was good.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. So cool. I'm back up here. Where we left on the song, I know we got on a side note, but as long as it's helpful for y'all. So back to the song. So this is the hook with everything all together again.
Girl, I wanna be a man, be a man. Love you like nobody can, only I can. I wanna help you understand. When I hold your hand, I wanna be a man. I wanna be a man.
So there's one element we haven't talked about yet. This song the beat is predominantly just drums, bass, keys, and guitar. So the only element that you guys haven't heard so far by itself is guitar. So I'm going to play that real quick. For this song, I chose to use an acoustic guitar, just for a clean, old school R&B feel. Here's what it sounds like. Now I'll let the guitar pattern play through a few times, because this is the breakdown in the intro. So I'm just playing whole notes. And then when the hook starts, I do this kind of like groove on the guitar. So this kind of supports the drums on how the rhythm goes. So here's the drums and the guitar together. Right? And then here's just the guitar in the verse. So it goes back to the same thing that it was on before. There's a little drop, and then it keeps going. Now I want you to check out what happens this next part, because the guitar will... hold on. All right, so the guitar is going to outline the melody. So I have the rhythm guitar going, and I have a lead guitar now pointing out the melody. Right? So back when I was talking about the vocals, I know there's a lot going on with this song already, but when I was talking about the vocals all ganging up on one chord, I was talking about the F sharp major 7th chord. This is what I was talking about. There's a part of the song, which I'll just play the verse and let you guys hear that first. Oh, let me unmute the guitar, or unsolo it. Here we go. Oh, sorry, y'all. Let me turn on the vocals. There's like 60 tracks in this session.
It could all be so simple. Don't worry, I'll be gentle, yeah. Gentleman, that's what I am. Win your heart, that's my game plan, yeah. I'm not here to hurt nobody. I'm hoping that you do not hurt me. Until then, I know I'll be thinking about what it's gonna be. Girl, I can't.
Okay, so as far as songwriting goes, what's happened in the song so far is an intro, a hook, verse, and then what's about to happen right now, what I was just playing, is called a pre-chorus. Pre-choruses are very helpful because it's basically like a second verse or a second part of your verse to make it longer, to where you don't have to write 2 long verses. I'll go more into that in a second. Kind of to answer Jamarco's interest earlier, when it comes to vocal arrangement stuff, here's a part of the song that I think is really cool. This is where the vocals build up on that F sharp 7th chord.
Think about what it's gonna be.
All right, so we had think about. I haven't done this song in a while. Think about. Let me find that first note. What I say? Think about. I can barely hit that note now. Think about. So that's a B flat, right?
Think about.
So I have B flat, D flat. What it's gonna be? Think about what it's gonna be. Think about what it's gonna be. So I'm spelling out vocally. I'm spelling out a. This is a little technical, but I'm spelling out a B flat minor 7th. That chord happens to go really well over F sharp. That's what it sounds like altogether. So my vocals are spelling out. And actually, I think there's another part to it too.
Think about what it's gonna be.
So then I go think about what it's gonna be. Think about you and me, right? So we have think about what it's gonna be. Think about you and me. So I sing a C as the last one. Think about what it's gonna be. Think about you and me. So that's the chord I'm singing with like 4 different voices. Any questions about that? I know I covered a lot of stuff in a short amount of time.
No,
that's good.
Is it making sense so far?
Yeah, everything makes sense.
Cool. Glad to hear it. So let's keep moving forward in this song and kind of hear what's happening next. So this is the pre-chorus right here. I want to also mention that opening melody that you hear that starts the song. That part is coming back in the pre-chorus. So you had that part starting the song, and then you had the verse, which is not that same melody. It could all be so simple. Don't worry, I'll be gentle, yeah. So that's a different melody, and then it revisits your melody that you opened the song with. So this is the first pre-chorus. And then I do the same thing again. Then I go back to the hook.
Girl, I wanna be your man. Love you, baby.
Now what you hear me doing extra vocals on top, that's what a lot of people call ad-libs. So here's what the ad-libs sound like by themselves.
I wanna be your man. Love you, baby. Only I can. I wanna help you understand how much I wanna be. Ooh, oh. Ooh, yeah, ooh, yeah, ooh, yeah.
Okay, so yeah, I said 90s R&B, right?
It sounds good. It reminds me of
Yeah, I had to fit in it. Ooh yeah, it's 90s R&B. So
I heard that part.
That part's funny.
What'd you say?
That part is funny. It's funny too.
Oh yeah. And then so here's both of those together. When I'm doing lead vocals as a singer and a songwriter, when I do ad-libs for like a singing song, I try not to sing too many lines with what the hook is already saying, because at that point then it's just really a harmony. It's not really an ad-lib. So I'm intentionally trying to avoid singing along with my background.
Think about what it's gonna be. Girl, I wanna be your man. I wanna be your man. Be your man. Love you, baby. Love you like nobody can. Yeah, I can.
You kind of see what I mean? Like, I'm trying to stay out of the way of it.
When I hold your hand, how much I wanna be.
Okay, so that's that part. And then we have a second verse. Let's hear a little bit of it. So my format, and I don't always think of songs so straightforward as far as this part, and this part. But when I was trying to make these songs every month, I knew I had limited time to work with. So I was really just trying to think of the most efficient way to make the song. So for this one, I knew that the first pattern that I already played would work. So I just repeated it, and then I added a bridge at the end. So we had intro, hook, verse 1, pre-chorus, chorus, and then the same pattern happens again. Another verse, verse 2, pre-chorus, chorus, and then there's a bridge, and then it comes back for one last chorus. Let's hear the second verse, see what happens different.
You've captured my attention. You're all I see in my vision. Yeah, 2020's what I see. Perfection shaped in your beauty. Yeah, I'm not here to hurt nobody. I'm hoping that you can inspire me. Until then, I know I'll be thinking about what it's gonna be.
Now for the next pre-chorus, I did change my lyrics, but the melody's the same. And I also added a harmony singing along with what I was singing on the lead. So it sounds like this.
Girl, I can't lie to you. About the day that you
Now, when I sang it really out of pitch and out of key. So my engineer had to tune it for me using a Waves tune or Melodyne. So here's what they sound like together, and then I'll play them separately.
Girl, I can't lie to you. I fantasize about the day that you'll be my love and my wife. Feelings for you grow more and more over time. No one can change my mind. Till the end of time, you know I'll be thinking about what it's gonna be. I wanna be a man.
Okay. So here's that part by itself. Nobody's ever heard this by itself because it sounds so crazy when you hear it by itself because it's tuned very heavily. I usually don't like my voice tuned that hard. I usually just say, you know what, I'll go back and re-sing it better. But we were rushing to make sure we got this done on time.
Girl, I can't lie to you about the day that you'll be mine. Feelings for you grow more and more over time.
It's a very distinct note you have to hit.
The time you know I'll be.
So that's kind of what that's the only thing new that happened in the song so far at that point. So on the second pre-chorus, I kind of try to follow the same rules that like Prince had as far as don't leave songs boring. Make sure that they, Timothy Payne. I just seen the chat. It's funny. T-Pain is a big influence of mine. I don't use autotune like that though. But I try to use the same rules that Prince had as far as don't repeat too many things in the song without adding something new that's interesting. So let's finish out the rest of this song. Do we have any questions before we move forward? Everything making sense?
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So this is the second pre-chorus. Same 4 chords the whole song. So the keyboard player's job is real easy for the most part. And then I have different ad-libs. You know, I'm not going to sing the same ad-libs. When I wrote this song, here, let me take this part back. When I wrote the song, I intentionally wanted a big part where I was just belting a big note, like some old 90s R&B. This was the moment. So that's the third chorus, or the third hook. So then I break it down. I break it down to just the guitar and vocals. And some light percussion. And then I end up the song on a bridge. So same chords, new melody to end the song. Here it is.
You know, once I saw you, you had a place in my heart. I hate to sound cheesy, girl, but it was love from the start.
And that is the song Your Man. That's a behind the scenes on it.
That was dope.
Cool. I appreciate it, man. Actually, I had a show at Pop's, the nightclub on the east side right before Corona hit. And when I started this part of the show that had all the love songs put together, I used the melody from the end of the song from the bridge. Let's see what it is. Dun, 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 dun. I used this melody. Dun, 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 dun. And that's how I started it. So I did a live arrangement, or composed a live arrangement that started off the song. Instead of like starting off soft with, I started off instead really with a big band sound going dun 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 dun. You know, and the band was going crazy on all that stuff. So that's just a way you can switch it from a studio arrangement to a live arrangement. So that song in a nutshell had 3 different melodies throughout the whole song that were used at different times, and the chords were all pretty much the same. So that's your man. If everybody's good on that one, I want to kind of jump into the next song that I used or that I played in the key of E flat. All 4 of these songs I'm talking about all went together, but I did them throughout the year because I was trying to string them together without anybody really noticing until the end of the year. They all feature the same girl actress in all the videos, so people by the end of the year kind of caught on to that. But this song is actually one of my favorite songs. I actually intend on doing a remix on it. And Jamarco, do me a favor, take the floor because I want to go get a toy and be right back.
Okay.
So, yeah, I'll be right back, y'all.
All righty, how's everyone doing?
All right.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Pretty good.
Okay.
What's up,
How's
everybody?
Hi.
All right, y'all. So we're gonna go over this song that I wrote for Prince back in 1982. All right. So we're gonna start with. I was sitting in my home and I had this inspiration, man. What could we explore for Prince? He's done so many things. He's crossed so many lines. And I was thinking to myself, he hasn't wrote about cheese. And so.
Oh my God.
Okay. I'm kidding. Imani, how have you been?
I've been good. I've been working from home, so it's been an adjustment. Because my mom works from home too. So like both of us are taking calls and both of us are loud, and it's not working out. So I'm gonna have to find another place to put my little cubicle because there's just a lot going on at home right now.
Okay.
I feel you. I actually, my girl's in the next room working and actually like taking care of our baby and working so I can focus on this. So we're all, in the same boat with that.
Yes, this is very hard adjusting to.
You do like call center stuff?
Yes.
Cool. Yeah. So I went to go find a little toy piano that my daughter has because I want to show like how simple this bass line is to where you could play it on a little toy, but I can't find it, so we're not going to waste time with it. Anyway, so this next song, I'm sorry, I don't want to cut anybody off either. Were y'all still talking and catching up, or?
Yeah, I was going to ask, Alexis, you still in the chat? Just to see how you doing.
Hey, yeah, I'm still here. I'm just eating food. My mom, she brought food for me, so I didn't want to be like bashing in front of your face.
And how's everything been for you?
Everything has been well. Really can't complain. Just doing my best to keep what I can balance creatively and then work-wise. I've been doing work from home with the public schools as a PE teacher. They have us doing virtual learning for the students. So it's been different taking that on, but it's also been a lot of fun. So other than that, that's been like the biggest thing, keeping up on that and just keeping up on my creativity.
Okay.
How do
I
you
just
teach
want
them
to thank you.
PE?
Well, for PE, I could upload videos for them of different exercises to do, but I haven't done that because they tend to know the ones that we would do. So I upload these assignments, and it lists out the different exercises and stretches to do. I try to switch up videos that I have them watch towards like health or learning about muscles, learning about the body. Try to get them like some fun activities that they can, and their parents are supposed to go over it with them, so they can,
Right.
they can help guide them by going down that list and just figuring out what they want to do for at least an hour. For some reason, the board is only requiring an hour of PE for the whole entire week. If it was up to me, they'd be doing
Wow.
an hour every day.
Oh,
So
you
that's
said half hour is what people recommend, just half hour exercise. But I was just
yeah.
imagining when you said PE over digital learning, I'm imagining like dodgeball, but like this. like,
Right. How does it work? Well, so
yeah.
yeah, they get to do all those type of activities with who's at home, whoever they're with at home, their
That's
family.
what's up. Well,
Yeah.
cool. Yeah. I don't want to hold up your grub, so feel free to enjoy listening in.
Thank you. I'll be
Yep.
back.
Okay. But yeah, that's cool. Pretty much everybody's working from home now, which is cool. Do we miss anybody or
Okay. We spoke.
Taylor.
I don't.
Taylor? Yeah.
Or Matthew.
What?
How's everything been for you?
Oh, with the virus? It's all right. Working from home. I'm still in school, so finishing my last few little papers and assignments or whatever, and applying for jobs. Hopefully, I
What
can
type of job do you want to get?
So I'm interested in working with technology, and so the role that I'm interested in is called user experience researcher, and basically it's pretty much doing research to help make like websites and mobile applications more user friendly. So yeah.
That's cool. Do you code already, or you know any code?
No, I don't know how to code. But luckily that's not really a part of my job description. But I would be working with other like designers and developers who do all the coding and stuff and the design. Like anytime, you're on Instagram, you get a new feature or you see, somebody Twitter or Facebook has updated their layout or whatever, that's like because they have like user experience researchers go out and talk to people and try to figure out what they could do to make the application easier to use or new features and whatnot. But I don't do any of the coding. I just like do interviews and other types of research analysis stuff.
Gotcha. Yeah, data collection is important. Like figuring out what people don't like about applications, like Zoom. Like, cool. Did we catch up on everybody?
Yeah.
Cool. Any questions that you guys had, even if it's not related to anything I already talked about?
I had a question. Like we kind of covered a lot on the musical aspect of composing. But I wanted to like ask a question because I know we have a lot of singers and writers. Like how do you approach, I guess, finding melodies? What notes or what kind of scales or whatever would be helpful for singers?
I mean, I hate to sound cliche, but I almost want to say kind of sing what you feel at first. Something I noticed because I own a studio of recording or a recording studio, sorry, y'all. And something I noticed is certain singers have go-to riffs and licks, which is good, but it's only at like the point of learning what the scales are. You only really want to learn what the scales are and apply it to your singing when you want to figure out what you're doing to where you don't repeat it over and over again. But as far as Matt, your question was like, what my process is like for Your Man, it just kind of came to me. And then I found the chords that went with it, and then it worked that way. I would encourage all songwriters and singers to voice record themselves often. That way you have, you know, a recording of what you were singing so you don't forget it later. But I would say sing what you feel at first, and then you can learn, you know, more about your scales afterwards. Because some people get too caught up in the learning about the scales to where they never get a chance to actually create. Does that kind of answer your question?
Oh, that's perfect.
Cool. And I could actually apply it and transition into this next song. Because with this song, I didn't hear the lyrics first. I didn't hear the melody first, or I didn't come up with the melody idea first. I came up with the bass line because I said, I want to make a pop song and I want to make it about love. So the way I wrote it is a song called I Choose You. So even just the title by itself is a romantic title in nature. But it's called I Choose You. I'll let you hear a little piece of it and then we'll talk about it. Or actually, you know what? Before I even play the song, how many of you guys have actually heard this song? I'm pretty sure Matt has and Jamarco has.
Yeah.
Okay. All these songs, by the way, are available on whoistimothy.us /videos. So that's in the chat box if you want to check it out later. So for this song, I actually sat down at my keyboard at my old place and I played out because I heard this bass line in my head and it was like dum 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 dum.
Oh.
What's up?
I just made a sound.
Oh, I thought. Oh, yeah, okay. But then I sat down at the keyboard, and okay, cool. You can still see my keyboard. So then I just played it out. Well, I had to find it first. Like I never just sit down and know exactly where it's at. Sometimes I do, but so I sat down, played it out slowly. Oh, I haven't played it in a while. There we go. Right? So that was the bass line. And I kind of chose that was going to be the main part of the song. So when the song starts, that's the first thing you hear. Let's actually hear the song for a second. Yet again, with this song, I chose to do a rise because I knew these four songs would go together. So I chose another rise to bring it in. There is a melody. I call it a signature melody, the same way that the first song had a signature melody. This song also has a signature melody, which some people don't pick up on. And it sounds like this. And then I tied it with the lyrics. Ain't no other woman, my bad. Ain't no other woman that compares to you, baby. So that's like the signature, and that starts off the song.
This quick question.
Yep.
So, in regards to the rise, and you said all of these four songs are connected. I don't remember, but do you have like the outros that connect as well to the rise in the other songs?
Yeah, so that really more so depends on how you're packaging the product. So I'm actually going to be repackaging these as an EP, and I'm going to add a new song. And the transitions, well, actually, here's the last song into this song, so you kind of hear how they go right now. So this one just kind of ends. Kind of hear the transition. So if somebody were listening on a streaming platform or on a CD, it would go from one song, like fading out with just the acoustic guitar and vocal, and then it would go into this song.
Okay.
That kind of makes sense?
Yeah.
So here's that transition again.
It was love from the start.
And then the next track. I played the signature lick on the guitar, and then the bass line and drums come in. And there's also guitar.
There's something I gotta tell you that you need to know.
We'll listen through the chorus, and then we'll go back.
Out of all of the people in the club, girl, I love you more. Girl, I love you. to not know that's really hard to explain. It's different anytime, every time that you say my name. Every time. You have to know today what I'm trying to say is ain't no other woman that can bear you, baby. You're my lady, and ain't no other woman drive me crazy. Not like you, the way you make it far too easy to choose. I choose you.
All right, so that was through the intro up to the first chorus. So anybody heard that song before other than Matt and Jamarco? No? Well, I'm glad you heard it today. So that's my version of a pop song that I would like to make for myself. Most of the song is just the bass line. And then the guitar is doing a kind of what I call like I personally call it like a disco tonic. And what I mean by that is it's holding the one of whatever key you're in. We're in E flat. So on the guitar, I was going. Let me actually play the guitar by itself so you hear it. So when the bass drops, dum, dum. And then here's the guitar and bass together. So that's the groove right there. And then we have the keys. The keys don't sound like that usually. Let me see. Something muted. Oh, no, there's no keys in there yet. Yeah. Okay, so the different parts I have going there is we got the bass line. And then I have the guitar doing the tonic, which just kind of holds the key. Drums are just doing a straight 4 to the floor pattern. What I mean by that is every 4 counts of the measure, 1, 2, 3, 4, they all have the kick. So it's just that regular pop sound that that you're used to hearing. Hold on. So that's 4 to the floor. It's just a kick on. There's different elements in there. I got a clap. I got a snare. I have hi-hats going right now. Okay. So that's the meat of the song. It's just the bass line. The piano chords, I did the same thing I did on Your Man, and I chose to make the song mostly just 4 chords the whole song. So here's the chords that I chose for this. They follow the bass line because if you know anything about music, if you have a chord, it usually has to have a root note that is in common with the bass note. So the bass line was dun, 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 dun. So I had C walking up to G, then it went to A flat, walking down to F. So I just chose each of those and built a chord off of it. And here's what it sounds like. So on the chorus, when the chorus drops, the piano and the keys, the synthesizers are all doing this pattern. So here's that over the bass line. Kind of makes sense? So that's pretty much the whole song. There is a pre-chorus part that builds up, and I call it kind of, this is like a build in this song. And the progression for that part is this. Speaking number system wise, it's 2, 3, 4, and then it's very popular to do in pop and R&B to do this 5 chord. Like Rock With You, Bruno Mars uses a lot of different songs that uses that chord. That's just the 4/5. Matt, I was talking to you earlier about doing that modulation exercise. That's that same chord. And then once that part happens in the song, then it does the signature lick, which is the main lyric of the song, or the second main lyric of the song. Ain't no other woman that compares to you, baby. So that's when that part happens again. Let me play it so you kind of know what I'm talking about. So this is still the verse. It's about to go to the pre-chorus right here. Here we go. You have to know today what I'm trying to say. Building on the 5. And then here's the hook. You're my lady. I think I'm and drive me crazy. So right after that hook, I choose to go back. I choose to go right back to the second verse. Instead of doing a tag. So what I call a tag is a part that happens after a hook that repeats. So it kind of just repeats, and you'll hear that in a second. So we have a second verse. The second verse doesn't really do anything too much different than the first verse other than changing lyrics. Musically, it's the same. And then it goes back to a breakdown. The breakdown the second time is a little different because I switched out the bass line I had with the 808 and did some trappy stuff, so it sounded more modern. Yeah, let me find the area. Give me a special feeling that I can't resist. So that's the second verse. So here's the second pre-chorus. You have to know today what I'm trying to say is this is the keys on the chorus, just the keys. Here's the keys in the bass. And then here's the guitar, or actually, so on this part, this is the tag. Let me play everything all together so you hear what the tag sounds like. Okay, so excuse me. So a tag, does that kind of make sense of what a tag is? And you'll probably recognize it if you hear it in songs now. It's a part of the song that happens after the chorus where they just keep repeating a line. Kind of makes sense?
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah.
Sorry, what'd you say?
That makes sense.
Okay. Yeah, I keep asking for feedback because I'm just looking at, pictures of y'all just like looking at me, so I'm not sure if it's making sense. Okay. Thank you for the feedback, y'all. So on the tagline, I also had some background vocals doing, at the time when I made it, I had them, I sang in this background harmony going do, 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 basically literally singing do's. Now that I look back at it, since I wrote this song and had to do everything like the music, vocals, and the video under 30 days, if I had more time, I probably would have came to my senses sooner and changed it to, instead of doo-doos, I would have changed it to I choose yous, which would have made more sense. So instead of hearing this, that's my lead, hold on. Only you to do, do, do. I choose you to do, do, do. Only you to do, do, do. I choose you to do, do, do. Only you to do, do, do. I choose you to do, do, do. Only you. Because that was cool, but I feel like the doo-doos get older quicker than if I were to say, I choose you, girl, only you. I choose you, I choose you, girl, only you. I choose you. I think that would have made more sense now. So when I remix it, I'll probably switch out those vocals. But at the time, I was like, do, do, do. And then plus Baby Shark was really killing the charts. So I'm like, you can't go wrong with some doo-doos. That's literally my thinking when I made this song. I'm like, don't like it because it has doo-doos in it. But yeah. So the chorus doesn't have any doo-doo parts in it or background harmonies until the tagline, and so that's kind of what makes it build. Where we were at in the song is we were on the second chorus. So then after the second chorus, it goes to another breakdown, and then I kind of take the same concept from Your Man, where it has the same format, and I apply it to the song. So I have a breakdown, and then after the breakdown, I have a big note where I hold a big note out for a while. And I actually don't remember how it ends, but let's hear.
Only you. I
So this is the last, or next to the last chorus. So then I'm going for the big notes again. And then I break it down again with the guitar like the first song. I gotta take that back for Matt so you can hear this bass line if you never heard it like this. Yeah.
Key bass.
All right, the key bass. Yeah, I thought that was a pretty cool part. So then we're on the very last chorus of the song. Oh, we got somebody else coming in the room. Let's see who this is.
That's me.
That's you?
So I'm just gonna switch to my phone.
Oh, okay, cool. That's fine.
Girl.
That's smart.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought it was Caleb coming in. I got excited.
Oh, and this is being recorded too, so I can send I'll email it to you, Jamarco, and then you can send it to whoever.
Okay.
All right, so that's pretty much the end of the song. Let me make sure it doesn't end any way different. So I just keep vamping, more leads. Okay, so that's pretty much all of that song. I have two other songs I was going to show you guys, but I know we have a Q&A portion. I want to leave that kind of open more to where I can answer, a lot of questions or anything that would relate to stuff that would help you guys. And if you don't have any questions, I totally have a few more records I could show you guys.
I have loads of questions.
Let's do it.
Go ahead.
Me?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I have a quick question. In regards to like software programs to get, because I'm back in the stage of rebuilding everything that I have creatively, and as far as the recording software, I'm thinking about Logic, but I also love doing music production. And right now, I can't use my machine controller because my laptop got stolen, so I don't have that software anymore. So yeah, it was last summer. It's been a while. I made the best of everything, but I would like to do Logic because I'm really well with GarageBand, and from what I hear, that's one of like the biggest transitions that you can make that is similar. And then I'm thinking about getting like a MIDI keyboard. Do you think I would be able to still do like music production that way, just from like the keyboard, until I can get a new machine program or?
For sure. So to answer your question, I'm always going to say Logic. I love Logic. I'm actually going to do a screen share here real quick. So if you look at my screen, I'm going to go to Logic and I'll show you why. All right. I think this will share my screen. Can you guys see this? Or you see Logic right now?
I can see it.
All right. Yep. So the cool thing about Logic is, and here's why I say Logic is cool. It's $200, I think. Also, to Alexis, you can message me. Like, I'd be fine with you using my version, and I'm pretty sure they're cool with it too, up to a certain amount of computers. So, if you have but just message me later about that.
Sure thing. Thank you.
Yep. So Logic's cool because it's $200 and you have it forever. So even if your laptop gets stolen, you still have your license. You can download it a million times. That's why I could share it to you. Logic's cool too for a lot of different reasons. I say it's cool because I use it. I made all this music on Logic mostly. Ableton's also cool. They all are a little different, but they do the same thing. They record sounds, they program MIDI, and they mix using plugins. Even though you don't have a MIDI controller, for example, now I'm not running my audio from this computer, so you may not be able to hear this stuff. But let's see. I'm just going to create a keyboard, right? So with Logic, you actually have a whole library of instruments that come free. So these are called stock sounds. Now, when you get higher up in the industry and you want to have, like, even I'm having to update sounds I have because they're considered old, but stock sounds are usually not something you want to use for huge productions, but I know people that have Grammys that use the same stuff that you would use in here. So I say all that to say, if I just go over here and bring up this kit, this Atlantic kit, right? Now, if I hit Command K, it's going to bring up a little keyboard, which this allows me. Can you hear that at all?
Yeah.
Probably, yeah, just probably through the mic or something. So this allows me, I'm using right now, here, if I got this other camera that's looking at my keyboard or whatever, but if you see my right hand over here, I'm just using my keyboard. I'm not even using like a MIDI controller, you know what I mean? So you could make a whole album just with a laptop. You wouldn't even need anything else.
With the keyboard.
Yep.
Okay. I never knew that. Well, that's great to know. Yeah, and those sounds, a lot of those sounds work well. I'm not opposed to using the in-house sounds.
These actually sound pretty cool, like especially if you learn how to mix them well.
Yeah, like I was building my own repertoire of sounds, which I have to start all over towards.
So for that, I would say check out Splice. Splice is $7.99 a month, and it's unlimited sounds and loops. So it's the easiest way to get high quality. Everybody in the game is using it.
Okay.
Arcade is another one. I think that's $10 a month, maybe. But Splice is what I use. Logic is what I use. I've made full beats on my laptop without a MIDI controller all the time. So,
okay.
Yeah, that'd be a great place to start. Also, when you get a MacBook, though, you don't necessarily need you don't need the newest MacBook. Like I have a 2011. That's what I'm working off of right now, and I got it for like $250.
Wow, amazing.
And then
I just got mine in. Thank God, a new one. It's a 2014, if I'm not mistaken.
That's cool.
So yeah, I would definitely check out Splice and Arcade. I meant to get more into Arcade, but I never really looked further into it.
I know Splice has a lot of good sounds and loops.
Okay.
And then if you have Splice and Logic, you can be very dangerous.
Okay.
Yeah. So
I'll be on it.
Cool. And then you can message me about the download for Logic.
Okay. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
I had a question.
Sure.
So I know when Jamarco was in your bio and everything, he mentioned that you're like self-taught with like a lot of instruments and things like that. So my question just being like, the only thing I really do is like sing right now, but I want to get more into like, learning how to play different instruments and stuff like that. But, everything is very costly. And so if I'm trying to be, cost efficient and, teach myself how to do these things, what would you say is like the number one rule for like teaching yourself how to play an instrument? Like,
I would almost have to say there's no rule to how you learn, other than, you know what, if I want to make one rule, be resourceful. That'd be it.
okay.
Nowadays, when I started learning music, YouTube was in the very early stages. So there wasn't really any tutorials like there are nowadays. Like you can go through, and actually starting next week, I'm going to be making a tutorial every week on each instrument on like my YouTube channel. So you can follow that too. But there's millions of people out there that teach great lessons on YouTube. Oop, sorry, let me shut this program. I would suggest if you want to start learning music or learning an instrument, I'd probably suggest going with piano to start with. And then when you got,
Oh, no, I was just agreeing. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah. No, you're good. So, yeah, piano would be a great starting one. And then I would say, too, just to not – I try to encourage everybody, don't buy new if you don't need to, because Guitar Center is cool and it has a great name. But if you're able to buy off Marketplace and find a used piano, sometimes people, if you have the space, people will give away upright pianos. And if you have the people to, help you move it, or if you just want a keyboard, we could go on Marketplace right now and you could find at least 5 keyboards for $50.
Okay.
So that would be that. If I were you, that'd be my route. Is either borrow a keyboard, or if you don't know somebody to borrow one from, try to buy one for $50 or so, and then you
Okay,
use YouTube, because YouTube has so many free resources.
got it. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Y'all can keep coming with the questions. Any question you have about anything. It doesn't have to be pertaining to directly to any aspect of music.
So,
I don't
go
have
ahead,
a question.
Marco.
Yeah, I don't have a question, but I just have a comment. Cause we usually, when I'm trying to sit down and like create stuff, I sometimes get in the mode of trying to make come up with the most complex stuff ever. But I usually only come up with like, where I'm at with my level of playing. But I never thought about the fact that you could take just a 4-chord progression, but just change everything else around it through certain portions of the song, and then completely change the dynamics of the song. I never thought about that.
Yeah.
Usually I play a progression all the way through, and whatever that I set for that progression is the same thing being played throughout the entire song.
Mm-hmm. See, Dr. Luke, which is not a doctor, Dr. Luke is Katy Perry's producer, and he's produced for a lot of other people. He used to play guitar on the night show. He was saying that pop is the most challenging genre because it's so easy. Like the only rule you have to have is it has to be very easy. So because it's so easy, you have to still make it interesting to listeners. So you have to pick good sounds. You have to pick good auxiliaries like other things, or good bass lines. But the chords are always going to be 4 chords or so, or maybe 3.
Yeah.
Like I would also encourage people or everyone to study the same way that jazz musicians transcribe, which just means to write out the solos that they hear. I would encourage everybody, if you make beats, try to remake a beat that's already out and compare it. If you're a singer, try to recreate the harmonies using your phone, and like an acapella app, which is free, I think. You can build your own harmonies and practice singing, and if you can recreate what's already made. A simple song like Stay With Me, which is actually the first song I teach all my piano students because it's 3 easy chords. I've had like 5-year-olds that still are able to have a half-hour lesson with me and still pick up that song. It's just 3 chords throughout the whole song mostly. But it's a whole song that I think it won a Grammy too. Or he got a Grammy for the album. But that's not even 4 chords. That's 3 chords, the whole song. So yeah, simple is good. I personally like to make stuff overcomplicated because it make it sound cool, but the simpler the better, and that's what I'm finding out.
Yeah.
So I have a question, and I would say it has to do more so with the the business side of music production. So I'm finding a lot of different information. I follow this guy, Kato, the producer, Kato on the Track. And he's talking about, creating an LLC for music. And with me, I know specifically what my niche is right now is kind of getting experience and collaborating with other musicians and producers on whatever project that they're working on while I'm still, gathering experience in plugins and so on and so forth on music production. So I'm just asking, like, Timothy, my kind of situation, but I don't know if creating an LLC and like the tax part, writing stuff off under your company's name, all that stuff will be beneficial for me right now because it's not really bringing any income in.
Right, and that'd be the main thing. Is if you're having sales, then that's definitely important. But even if you're not having sales, it's good to prep like you are, because then if you act like that, then you'll eventually start making those sales. So you can, when it comes to LLC, this is my understanding, and I'm still learning certain things. I just learned stuff this year, actually a few weeks ago when I was doing taxes for this last year. The main benefit of an LLC is if you're able to incorporate it outside of just being an individually owned LLC, meaning you're just one person. Once you make your LLC an S Corp, I'm not a lawyer, by the way, y'all, but once you make your LLC, an S corp, it is actually treated as a completely different type of entity, meaning that you don't have to pay certain taxes to where it saves you 14% of what you would usually pay out. And then there's some other benefits too, as far as you can put other LLCs underneath that. And you can have things called, trying to think what it's, not a clause. I can't think of the name of it, but you can have trusts. You can have trusts to where like you can have all your assets once you do acquire some wealth. You can have it protected under that to where you don't actually own anything, but you just manage it for your LLC. And that's how people, well, as far as the write-offs go, you can write off a lot of stuff as sole proprietors. So even like paying to be in this class, this is an educational tax write-off. So you can write this off from anything you make, even if you don't make it via music.
Cool.
Because it's considered informal. Yeah, it's considered an informal education. I actually had, I think 4 years ago, I went to Damon Johnson, the guy from Shark Tank, the black guy, Fubu, that guy. I went to a conference of his. It cost $2,000. And I went there at the time with a friend we were going to do, $1,000 a piece. And for me nowadays, that's a lot of money still. But back then that was definitely a lot of money. But I'm like, I really want to learn some tricks and trades to make me better. So I invested that, and then I realized later that year that I could totally write that off. So I was at a place where that year I was going to owe, I think, a few grand in taxes. And then I realized that I had that class and I paid for that class. So I was able to write that off, and then I didn't end up owing as much.
That's dope.
I would say too, and not just because I'm a private teacher, but I would say if you really want to get serious about any element of what you do, investing in a class or on a one-on-one like lesson is very valuable. I still do it to this day. I have people that if I want to get to the next level on a guitar thing, I would still do the YouTube thing and learn by myself because I know enough to learn. But if I want to just talk to somebody about the business stuff, like I have a mentor right now I just picked up about sync licensing, or getting music onto like bigger shows and TVs, not just like the VH1 transitional screens, but like the bigger ads and campaigns for Nike and things like that. And he gave me some feedback about actually the music you guys heard tonight. And the feedback was good. And he basically told me in short that he could tell I'm very talented, but there are certain things I was still missing to get to that next level. So he's going to be working with me on that. So I still do the same thing. I still pay people for advice. As long as it brings value, that's always the important thing. If you're giving money to something, it should bring you value, I think.
Yeah. I agree.
I have a question. What kind of boundaries do you set with, I would say, how you approach listening to other people's music so that it doesn't reflect so much in the music that you create, so that,
As far as like not trying to knock other people off unintentionally?
Yeah, just so that your music, it maintains, your identity is maintaining your music versus,
like not sounding like somebody?
Yeah.
So I deal with this in two ways. The one way is education. If I know exactly what the other person is playing, then I will know if I'm playing it or not. You know what I mean? If that makes sense. So like if I know what chord they're playing, then I know to not play that specific chord that way to make it not sound like them. Naturally, I don't think you have any choice but to sound like yourself. Even if you're really good at sounding like somebody else, you're still going to sound like you sounding like them. So I don't worry too much about it. I try not to listen to, unless if I'm listening to something for reference, I don't listen to other music if I'm creating something.
That's more like,
what was that?
I said, that's getting more to it.
Yeah, I'd probably just want to listen to other stuff while creating, honestly.
Okay.
Unless if I'm looking to draw from that, because you're going to naturally draw from anything you hear, unless if it's like not appealing to you.
Yeah.
But as far as like, I have certain things, I have certain licks that I just always do in songs. like certain vocal licks, certain guitar licks, and that's part of my identity. I didn't really do it at the beginning. I usually in these type of environments, I'll do like a little spiel how music is a language, and how when you learn a language, even with like my 6-month-old, like when she's learning a language, she's not going to learn it all at once or one, like she's not going to learn a whole sentence. She's going to learn a sound, and that sound is going to be a letter, and then that letter was going to make a is going to build onto a word, and then that word is going to build onto a few words, and then that's eventually going to make a sentence. So a lot of the stuff that I know and know how to do right now, it's taken me 10 years plus, of being very, very after it, and not passively doing this stuff. So, be patient with yourself if you're learning. Like, you don't have to, I would also say be patient with yourself, but also give yourself deadlines, because a lot of creatives I know, actually Jamarco, just thinking about it, I know a few that we both know, or people that we both know, that I wish had put projects out, years ago, when we talked about it, and and they still haven't, and they probably won't, to be quite honest, just because they were so caught up in what I do first. They didn't do anything. So I would say, just do your best, be patient with yourself, but also give yourself little deadlines. I gave myself the challenge last year just to see if I could actually do it, and if I could actually do it well. And I think I did okay. Obviously, I had my first child last year, so that was really more of my focus than dealing with that. And I still had clients, and I still played music on the weekends for a living and stuff. So making songs every month was a big focus of mine, but it wasn't the only thing I was focused on. So I gave myself the deadline. I did the best I could, releasing a song every month, and we all see the result of whatever I made. So, I mean, hopefully that little spiel gives y'all some help.
Yeah.
So I have another question if nobody else has a question right
It's all
away.
good. This is Q&A time. I love it.
Okay, so when you go into, I guess, compose or arrange a song from start to finish, like, to be honest, I find myself a lot of times stuck in the 4-bar loop, and then like trying to find out how to escape, so to speak. This is mainly in production. So I don't know. Do you like just use theory to help you, with that? Or are there any tricks or any like go-tos that you
I
would
can.
recommend?
I usually try to, if you're stuck in an 8-bar, you said an 8-bar loop,
4-bar.
4-bar, then I would try to make it into an 8-bar loop, and then once you make that 8-bar loop, try to make another bar or another section that's in the same key that doesn't sound like that, or the sound is different. Because if you think about like the first song I broke down, the Your Man song, it only had, even though it was only one progression through the whole song, it had 3 different melodies. So that's the main thing that made each part different. But the drums, for the most part, were the same thing. I just took out some stuff at different parts.
Yeah.
What I like to do beat-wise, and Jamarco, in the future, if you guys have me back, what I think would be maybe cool is to do a production, a beat making specifically one where I can share my screen and actually like build a beat in front of everybody. But what I like doing, man, is I like building the meat of the song, the part that's going to be like your radio part or wherever you want people to hear the most. I build that part up as much as I can, and then I start breaking it down. And usually if I build it up good enough or with enough pieces, I can break it down and make a whole song just by deconstructing it and reconstructing it.
Yeah,
So
that's the
like
part I'm
if
talking
you're
about.
stuck, if you're stuck on an 8-bar loop, it could be that may be the whole song. You just have to learn about formatting it on and finding out what you can take out and still let the song, be how you want it to be. It also depends on if you have lyrics or if you have like vocals to work around. Because if you don't have vocals to work around, then, as a beat maker, you can make a beat and it can sound real open and like there's a lot missing, because sometimes it's the vocalist and the harmonies that will make it, make it up.
Right.
I have a question.
Yeah, I can hear you. Is it Taylor or Alexis?
She can go ahead. I asked one already.
All right, go ahead, Taylor.
No.
So I'm very new to all of this, and I would say I'm more Hold on one second, sorry. Okay. Alexis, if you want to go first.
Oh, sure. Thank you. Okay,
Trying to
so, Timothy, my question is,
Thank you.
oh, what was I just thinking about?
They doing that because you black.
Dang it, I lost it. I forgot what I was thinking about. If it comes back to me, I'll ask you.
I think the last thing I was talking about, if it helps your train of thought, was like beat creation, building
Yeah,
something all the way up and then breaking it down. I hope that kind of helps jog.
what was it? I just had it. No, I can't.
We also have, and I just thought about it too. We got this chat box on, well, it's on my right, but we have a chat box. So if you guys have questions while somebody else is talking,
That's it.
go for it.
I was gonna say, would you say less is more towards any part of like the creating phase, lyric, songwriting, lyrically, production wise? Would you just say that's kind of like a good
Nowadays, yes, for sure. Less is more. Less is definitely more. But I would say this: the less you have, the higher quality whatever you have better be. You know what I mean? Like I actually, I was in the studio this other day with, he's not even like a big client, but I think he's platinum now, and he had this beat or track outs, and I downloaded it, and it was only 8 tracks. You know, I expected it to be some big, like 32 tracks, a whole bunch of little instruments. It was really just 8 tracks, and the main part of the whole song was a sample. So it wasn't a lot in the song, but the one part that was in the song was really good, and it was the catchiest part. So yeah, if less is more, but if you have less, then it'd be the quality of the quantity, you know, type of thing.
I got you. All right.
But in some ways, I would
Can you
say
hear me?
this. Yeah, I can hear you. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. So I was gonna say, yeah. So I'm like very new to all of this. I think I'm coming more so from like the writing side, just because, you know, with poetry and trying to like play with my voice, I feel like a lot of people always say, you know, poetry is very similar to songwriting, and I feel like I always have a really hard time writing songs, so that is not true for me. And I would also say that my style is perhaps not like, you know, R&B style, or anything that has like I don't know, like a formal structure. I don't know. Do you have any advice as far as how to go about like actually like structuring and sitting down and like writing the song first before you have the music?
So
because I don't really have, you know, the, you know, sort of understanding of like the music production side.
right.
I don't know.
So from what I'm hearing, I'd probably suggest even maybe playing with the idea of doing a poetry album before even, unless if you want to do it in a strong, like a song structure where it sounds like a song. I've helped with different poets make albums where they just have poetry over music, or sometimes just poetry recorded by itself, performed really well. And slight brag, I did one record for a guy that's from St. Louis called Hakeem Thomas, and he was #1 on the, I think it was iTunes, in the poetry category for a song I produced for him, or a poetry song I made for him for like I think 6 weeks. Like he was the #1 downloaded and streamed person. So there's a big market for that actually. But are you talking about you want to actually put poems and make them in song format?
Yeah, I mean, I would like to make actual songs. I think that I just struggle with figuring out how to structure it.
And are you cool like writing to music? So well, let's do this actually. We'll do a little exercise. I'm gonna break down the verse of the song that I played earlier, Your Man. I have a lot of different songs, but we're gonna talk about this one since we already kind of covered it. So the verse on it goes, it could all be so simple. Don't worry, I'll be gentle. That's the first line of the song. Lyrically, it's not too deep. It's a romance song. It's R&B. The rhyming accent's very blatant. Don't worry. What is it? It could all be so simple. So simple is the rhyme. Don't worry, I'll be gentle. Yeah. So the melody I'm going with is, let's see. Don't worry. So that was the melody I used for it. It just came to my mind. But sometimes if you're listening to the music, and now I wrote the music for this, so it all went together. But if you're just listening to music and writing to it, you'll come up with your own melodies, especially if you already have your rhymes. Not saying you're rapping per se, but your lyrics or your rhymes already written out. You can kind of see how they're going to be structured. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah. I guess
So,
maybe I just need
do you have a poem like in front of you that you could pull up on your phone?
No, I'm actually driving right now.
Oh, okay, yeah. I don't want you to have
That's
to
why I had to
multitask
switch
too
to my
much.
phone.
Do you have a poem that you know off the top of your head?
No.
And that's
Like, my
okay.
poems don't really rhyme in like a traditional kind of way. Like,
Right.
there's more like, middle rhyme type things than
Well,
there
I would
is
say
like
to that though, if your lyrics don't rhyme, I've found that people that have lyrics that don't rhyme usually want to do more with the melody. Like you can sing it more if it's not going to rhyme, if that makes sense. I'm trying to think of a good example of a
yeah.
song.
So that's why I would say my style is more, I would say, like free flowing than it is like a traditional like structured like R&B song has like the chorus is here and then it
Right.
goes like that. And so that's why I feel like I kind of have a difficult time with trying to understand. Okay, when am I doing like too much?
So in poetry form of songs, what I'm learning, and I just happen to have done like maybe 50 in the last few years. I'm actually working on finishing a guy's album. The same guy that went #1 on iTunes for a while. I'm finishing a whole album of his that we did. And he built his own structure, meaning like each song, I wish I had him so I could pull him up and show you guys, but some of the songs he wanted me to make just like a loop where it's the same thing the whole way through. Some of the songs have like little choruses. So it's all up to you. Like if you're doing the more of the spoken word category, which I think is a really big open market, and St. Louis has tons of poets. So I think that's a big thing where people, could get on more. If you're kind of doing that type of style, you can make it your own. You don't have to follow a structure per se. Especially if you're not going to like follow the traditional rules of certain things, rhyming and stuff like that. Like you can make it your own. I'm hoping that kind of helps.
Yeah, I have to look into it more.
Yeah. Do you do any performance already, like open mics and stuff?
I mean, I've done performances for my poetry, but that's it.
Do you happen to like listen to anybody, like any poetry albums?
I've listened to Jasmine Mann's like performance album that she had. I think that's like the only one that I've like actually really like listening to. And she had music that went along with that too.
Okay. Was it like played behind her while she did her pieces?
Yeah, and she didn't. Well, she had some people singing. She did have some musicians, but she didn't sing anything herself.
Right. That sounds like, from what I'm hearing, it may be cool for you to like collaborate with somebody and see, what you guys can make. If you were to do it on your own, I'd probably suggest like scouring YouTube for different instrumentals or atmospheric sounds or anything that you like sound wise. It doesn't have to be a beat per se. Sometimes you can find like just cool ambient sounds to go behind what you're saying to accompany your words. I would encourage everybody to document what you're doing while you're living. And this, not to sound deep or morbid or anything like that, but realistically, whether COVID happens or not, everybody is going to pass at some point. So I think it's a disservice if you feel like you're talented or gifted to not document your poems, your songs, your beat ideas, and put them out in some capacity to where people can listen to them and appreciate them. Because when you do pass, you'll have what you made or what you created will most likely still be in rotation, or at least be available to where like your kids and grandkids can, go back and listen to your project. So I would encourage everybody, whether you rap, sing, write poems, write books, intellectual property is a big part of passive income for, creatives. So if you, for like producers, we get production royalties. So if we make songs for people and their streams go up, then we get paid off that. For poets, it's if you make a book, you sell the book and you get paid off that. And with Amazon, like a lot of people around the world like buy random stuff that you don't think they would. So you could have fans all around the world that really dig your poetry because it speaks to their heart. You just have to find a way that packages it to where you want to sell it or give it away, or or however you want to get it to people.
Yeah.
That's good.
Anybody else got anything?
Anybody got any other questions? All right. We've reached.
You guys there?
Yep, we got one more.
Okay, my connection, it was fading in and out. Is someone else going?
No, you're good.
Okay. Yeah. So my question is that I have a project in mind that I'm wanting to do towards what's going on right now in the world with the coronavirus, and I would like for it to be able to reach as many different platforms as possible. And I want to put it out for free. I would like to do that. Is it possible to do that? Have it distributed to streaming platforms and for it to be free? Like, I haven't seen anything that's showing it's possible, but I would like to if it is.
There are ways for you to price it to give away. There's what I'd probably suggest, and this is more from a business standpoint, but what I'd probably suggest is to build a simple website that'll collect emails for every time that you give away a download. So if you are you talking about like a song or like a little album?
An album.
An album. So an album or a song. I just switched to them recently. There's a website builder called Bandzoogle, and you can use that or Wix or Squarespace, any of those. But I'm using Band.
I have Squarespace already.
So with Squarespace, you can actually build downloads in there to where if you make your album, you can upload the album and then put free download. And you can just let people have it, or you can give them a free download with the option of, or with having them having to put in their email. That way you can stay connected to them and email them later and let them know what's going on.
All right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Or also Bandcamp. That's way easier than building a website.
I do have Bandcamp too, so I was thinking about
Bandcamp is free. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. You can give away stuff for free. I don't think there's a limit. They used to limit how much you can give away free music, but yep.
All right. I like both of those ideas. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Do we have any other questions from anyone else? No? Okay. All right, Timothy. Well, Timothy, do you have any other closing remarks?
No, just thank you guys so much for tuning in. It's always good to see, Matt and people that I see on a regular anyways, and Alexis. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. I hope you guys learned something from this and, continue to be creative. Keep pushing yourselves. I hope what I'm doing, out here is inspiring some of y'all to give it your best shot. And I know some of the talents that's in this chat, and I know you guys have hella potential just like I do. I'm praying that we all find our place in this and make the most of it. That's like my final remarks.
All right. Yes, indeed. Well, we appreciate you, Timothy. Like I said, we'll have the video available for everyone at some point soon. And so we thank you all for tuning in, and we will see you all next month. And Tim, we're probably going to have you on again sometime in the future. So we
for sure. I'd love to come back, like I said, either production or mixing. I'd love to go deeper in those because that kind of seemed like what we were going into is more into the production and mixing element early on. But all right. Thank you guys so much for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming on, Timothy.
Thanks, DeMarco.
Yeah,
right,
thank you, DeMarco, for building this. This is great.
Hey.
Thanks, Marco.
All right, y'all be blessed. Y'all have a good night.
All right, you too.
All right,
too.
see you.
Bye.
All right.
Peace.